just from my experiences, I actually used to give this lecture to the event management class before I ever taught it. So this was my guest lecture that I would come in and do for the event management class before I even ever taught it. So I just want to share these tips with you as our kind of last lecture for the class. So first tip, there's 5 of them, 5 tips. First one, think through every aspect of the event in advance and make checklists that include everything involved. Checklists, checklists, checklists. I know people laugh at me and like, really? But no, it is always a good idea to make lists. And always have a way of taking notes. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you want to be able to have a way to take notes. It's really easy nowadays because most of you have smartphones, and so there's all types of apps and things you can use on your phones to take notes. I use Evernote personally. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's an app that I use because it transfers from my phone to my iPad to my Mac to my laptop, even to my watch. I can read things on those notes and make lists, and so I just like being able to access that on all of my devices. But whatever works for you, you want to make sure you have a way of taking notes, because something may come through your mind at a moment and you may not remember it later. And I know you're all, young. Do you think, well, it's just, old people can't remember stuff? I'm like, no. When I was in my 20s, I still took notes, try to remember things because, yeah, you're human. You may think of something and then forget it later. I used to, before technology allowed a digital note-taking devices, and I've always liked technology. I had an old Palm Pilot, well before it was a phone, that had the shorthand that you used a little stylus and wrote, and it put it into a Word document very early on because I appreciate having the technology. But even before that, I used to carry around those little spiral notepads that the small ones, like that are about this size, they just were tiny little notepads that I could stick in a pocket or in a bag, and I always had one of those with me everywhere I was, and I'd stick a pen in the little spiral part. So I had a little pen, my little notepad, and that went with me everywhere. And if I was meeting someone and I needed to jot down their phone number, I put it in there. If I ran into something at a store and I needed to jot down a price for an event or something that I might want to come back and check out later, wrote it down. It didn't matter. I put everything in those little notebooks, and then I would go, attach it to various events and checklists and things later. But I still, if you go into my kind of library/office in my house, I have this whole row of all these little notebooks. I've never thrown them away. I still have this whole little row of these three little spiral notebooks because I would keep it by my bed at night. Very good, which now my phone is by my bed at night. But because if you wake up in the middle of the night and think of something, and if you do event planning, this will happen to you. My student worker, Hannah, was just in charge of an event this past weekend at homecoming, and she, as often happens to event planners, the night before, she's like, I woke up from a nightmare in the middle of the night, nobody's going to come to the event, or this is going to happen, because that's what happens. When you're in charge of an event, you just can't help it. Your mind is going to start thinking things, and so you wake up in the middle of the night and you think, oh, I need to remember this tomorrow. You have a place that you can jot that down, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You want to be always ready to take good notes, and you don't want things to fall through the cracks. So take notes, make checklists. Each little tip I give you is going to have a little quote that goes along with it. But the quote that goes along with this tip is, never put off till tomorrow what you can do today. You guys have probably heard that expression maybe at some point in your life about procrastinating. Someone's like, oh, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. And I understand that there are times in life where procrastination is okay. I have definitely had times where I produce my best work under deadlines, with papers and projects and things like that, where until that sense of urgency hits, it's just not going to be as good. So you need that pressure. So there are times that's okay, but when doing event planning, you need to be very careful about procrastination, because unforeseen things will happen. Things will go wrong. And if you've done everything you can do in advance, when those things come up, you have time to deal with them without adding umpteen amounts of stress on your life. So if there's things you can do it in advance. If you've got to print signs or make name tags or things, there's no reason to wait till the day of an event to do that, because you don't need to. So if there's things that you can do ahead of time, do them. And it will save you stress on the day of your actual events when crazy things happen. because there will be last minute things that happen that need your attention. I don't know if you've ever known this, but in my context is one of my top 5 strengths. I like to know everything about everything. But the 4th Earl of Chesterfield was actually the person given credit for that quote. Never put off till tomorrow, what you can do today. So there you go, a little bit of history there for you. But an English statesman from the 1700s is the one that first was given credit with that quote. I'm going to, in a minute, show you one of my checklists, just to kind of give you an example of how crazy they can get. But, well, never put off till tomorrow, what you can do today. I can't even tell you the number of times in my event planning experience where I was so grateful that we had done things the day before. One recent memory comes to mind. I was working with a group of students this was a few years ago. It was for a breakfast that was going to take place at homecoming, and the breakfast was going to be at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so we said, we're going to show up on Friday night. We're going to go ahead, put the tablecloths on, go ahead and get the decor ready. We're going to do all of this stuff on Friday night because it's a Saturday morning breakfast, and then we'll do the food and the last minute stuff on Saturday. And they're like, can't we just show up early Saturday morning and do that? And I said, no, we're showing up Friday night to do that. There's no reason. We have the room reserved. Let's show up. So we did. Sorry. So we showed up Friday night. We got all that stuff done, and Saturday morning, I cannot even tell you the number of things that went wrong. We had coffee urns explode. We had technology that was fritzing and making crazy noises, and we couldn't get the speakers to work right. We couldn't get up the PowerPoint thing to show. I mean, we had one problem after another, that it took all hands on deck, getting extra help, figuring it, cleaning up coffee mess. I mean, it was, but by the time the event started at 9, all was good. I mean, we were able to get all that cleaned up. If we still had to do all the decorations, all the other stuff, I don't think there's any way possible we could have gotten it already. So they were like, yeah, we're really glad we came last night and did that. I said, I told you. I was like, I have a little bit of experience too. So anyway, there's just all kinds of things that can happen. So do what you can ahead of time, and you will really be glad that you did when you're dealing with all the stressful problems in the moment. Okay, so I'm going to show you one of my graduation checklists. Oh, I have to update Dropbox. Okay, so we'll do that. I don't know if you're one of those people who will add things to your to-do list at the end of the day just so that you have the opportunity to check it off because it makes you feel better. I will admit, I like having that, because I'll be like, what did I do today? So then I add things that I did so that I can feel like I accomplished something that day. But there's another reason for adding things to a checklist even after you've done something, and that's for future record and for future reference. Because a lot of times in an event, you won't realize something needed to be on the checklist. And so if you add it, and the next time you do that event, it's on the checklist for the next time you do something. Here's a checklist, one of my graduation checklists for a spring graduation, and it starts out like months in advance, 17 weeks before the actual event. You see it on there? And so it starts at 17 weeks out for a spring graduation. It starts in January. Talk about sending an email about a mandatory meeting that we had for graduation, having a mandatory meeting, application deadlines, emailing information to students, starting our status reports that we run with the dean's offices, because if you're not aware, it's your academic dean that clears you for graduation. So starting 15 weeks out, they start doing a weekly report on people who've applied for graduation to see where they are, what's still missing, that sort of thing, and then they start contacting students about graduation and what they need to do. Moves on to emailing sign language interpreters, getting them lined up is on here, mailing the list of applicants to get cleared by all these different offices, registration office, the financial aid, library, health clinic, business office, all these Leonard Center for service hours. All these people have to get to know who the graduates are so they can start seeing if you met all those requirements, if you owe outstanding fees or fines to the library. know if you're aware of this, they don't let you walk across the stage if you have 10 cents to the library. You will pay that first before you get to walk. So they take those things very seriously. Emailing the announcement order, taking care of that. Sorry, that's my uncle calling to find out about his brother. Talking about special honors diplomas, students who defer, getting them a refund, ordering diplomas, getting maps, printing honor certificates, honor cords, ordering them, sending certificates out to the president's office, to the vice president, because all those are personally signed. Again, there's just this long process, and if you look, like each week as it gets closer, the checklist gets longer, and a lot of the things on it take longer. Like one thing on a checklist might take 2 minutes to send an email, but we used to send a personal not electronic letter. We sent a printed letter and mailed it out to the parents of every graduating student. So that had to be formatted and stuffed and, postage and mailed out. And so that obviously is one thing on the list that took several hours to do. So again, some of these things may have been like a 1 minute or 2 minute job, sending an email, or others may be a long process. Finding out who the banner carriers are going to be, confirming photographers, sending emails about tickets, reserving golf carts, because the graduation office doesn't have any, so they borrow them from other people to use for that weekend. So I mean, it just keeps going. And then you get 2 weeks out, and you see how long that checklist is of stuff that has to be done. 1 week, and in the last week, it literally starts going a day-by-day checklist. What has to be done this day, like you do not go home until this is done, or the next day, because the next day, all these other things start happening. And I remember days during, 2011, 2012, when I would be here from 6 or 7 in the morning until after midnight. Literally, I would be in the office. Now you can do a lot more from home, so that helps. By the time you couldn't, you had to literally be on campus to do these things and get on the computers. So anyway, long days, that kind of planning. So then it goes all the way up to the day of commissioning, the day of commencement, and then some of the follow-up things. But this checklist, I would add to it all the time. I was always adding something new that I didn't know that I was supposed to do so that I could do it better the next time. But checklists are very important. Keep track of what you've got to do, keep track of it for reference for the future, and you will do a better job. That's your answer. Okay, so, second tip. Assume that things will go wrong, and if they don't, great. But between us, things always go wrong. Something almost always goes wrong. Now, whether or not that's a big public mistake or something that you handle that they don't see, that's a big difference. And you would rather your mistakes be the things that you guys deal with that they're not going to see, but that's not always the way it goes. Anyway, cheesy little cartoon. The medical staff's about to give this guy a shot, and they've got him all tied up, and says, "What do you mean the wrong address? That would be a bad mistake to make." If that was in circulation. So, ways to prepare for the things that will go wrong. Things to do. One thing, don't be caught off guard without information that you need to make decisions. Remember how we talked about that on-the-spot decision making, those things you have to do? I can't talk to you now, I'm going to class. Things are going to go wrong. You want to be prepared. So here's some things that I would do. I would always keep my contact information with me at all times. I would make sure to have the phone numbers with every person you may possibly need to contact. You have them in your phone. I, again, as a female event planner, would frequently wear clothes that didn't have pockets. I'm wearing a dress without pockets today. It's a normal thing. So whenever I would do events, I would always have my phone on a lanyard and usually around my neck. My jewelry for the day was my phone around my neck, because when you're running to and fro to an event, it's very easy to lay it down somewhere, and then everything is in that phone that you need. So, you know, this is very nice, attractive, you know. I have a very simple black case that I would wear around my neck with my phone in it, because I needed to be able to contact people at all times. I would have that. Another thing that I use a lot that I love is my special clipboard. And I love this clipboard because of several functions. It is not just a clipboard that is a board, it is a case as well. So in this clipboard, I can put my iPad in it, I can put certain forms and documents. It's got some paper clips in here, pens, mints, you know, you never know when you need to make sure you have fresh breath when you're talking to someone. But anyway, it was just a handy little clipboard. You could put some stuff on the top that needed easy access to, and I just carry this around. Now, frequently, I also hired someone to carry this around with me. Usually I would have whoever my personal assistant was for the day. They would carry the clipboard, literally walking with me all the time, and so that I could access the things while I was talking to people. So yeah, one student worker was just hired to be my assistant and carry my clipboard and go and fetch things. But I learned at my very first graduation, it was in Walker Arena because it was a terrible rainstorm that spring. It was May. And everybody was lining up in the hallways, in various rooms. We were trying to coordinate everybody and getting ready to walk out. And I happened to run into the president in the lobby, and Dr. Khan says, who are the faculty marshals, the ones leading the faculty members in? Because there are marshals for the faculty, marshals for the student groups. The marshals are the people that walk in front and kind of lead them where to go. And I knew who the faculty marshals were. I'd been working with them. I'd trained them. At the moment, their names completely left my brain as he's standing there asking me this, and I felt like a complete idiot, because there I am, and I can't tell him who his marshals are. So I remedied that mistake, and from then on, I never went with my clipboard without having the printed marching order for the faculty, marching order for the student, with the marshals listed on it, so that way if it was not in my head, I could look right down at the clipboard, and that is where it would be. So keep important information handy that you may need, that again, your brain may forget at the moment. So that is what I did. So you've got to be able to think fast and have information handy to access it when you need it. So let's go along with this one. The customer doesn't expect that everything will go right all the time. Again, they know that too. I mean, you may have some perfectionist clients who just they'll get all over you if you make one mistake. But normally that's not the case. They know that things are going to go wrong. But the test is what you do when those things go wrong. And how do you handle it? What is your attitude? What is your plan? Are you able to bounce back? Are you able to get things done even when things go wrong? I'm a pretty detailed person. And I'm going to do my very best. If I know something needs to get done, I'm going to make sure it gets done. And my biggest fear with doing events, especially new events, is not that I won't get done what I know I'm supposed to do. It's the fear of there being things that I didn't know that I was supposed to do. You know, like, well, what if I didn't know I was supposed to do this? I mean, you're coming into doing events maybe that have already been done, or even from the very beginning, those unexpected, those unwritten rules. What if there was unwritten rules that no one had told me, and then I don't do something that needs to be done? And anytime I do an event, that's always what I'm thinking about. Because I know, if it means no sleep, if it means whatever, I'll get done what I know to get done. What about stuff I don't know? And at that very first graduation, several things happened, and nobody told me. They weren't on a checklist, I didn't know. And very crazy things, like we're standing in the student lineup. I'm working with the marshals, we're checking everybody off, and Dr. Doffey, I don't know if you guys know Dr. Doffey, but he's been the head student marshal for I don't know how long, way longer than I can remember. But it's his job, he's the head student marshal. And he says, do you have my sticky notes? I said, sticky notes? No. What are sticky notes for? I don't know anything about sticky notes. He goes, well, I'm supposed to have sticky notes to go along with this, with a copy of the reading list, so that as students line up to go up on the stage, if someone got out of line or is not here at the last minute, we write their name on a sticky note, and the person in front of them hands it to the vice president so they don't call their name. So they don't make the mistake of calling someone's name that is not in the line. So he's like, that's what we're ready to do. We just give the sticky note to the person in front of whoever's missing, so they tell the vice president, don't say that name, you know. And I was like, well, that's a really good idea. Nobody told me I was supposed to do that. So I did happen to have extra copies of the reading list just because I thought I might need them. That I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna find sticky notes in Walker Arena in the next 3 minutes before the ceremony is supposed to start. So I go running through the back halls next to where they have the, like, what do you know, the locker rooms and all that stuff. And I found an old cart that had a TV and like a VCR and a DVD player on it. They would, I guess, wheel in to watch videos or whatever in the locker rooms at that time before they like built in ones. But this is this cart. And I happened to find on that cart a sheet of labels like that you would put to label a DVD or a VCR tape or whatever. So it's like, well, they're sticky and it's something you can write on. So I grabbed a pen. I said, here you go. I don't have sticky notes, but here's something you can write on and that they can take up there. And he goes, that'll work. So again, it was some very fast minute trying to solve this problem that I didn't even know was going to be a problem. Another thing, that first graduation on Friday night, the person who was over the special setup for the physical plant asked me, we were at the commissioning service, already started, service is going. She goes, hey, where are the flagpoles? It's like, what flagpoles? She goes, yeah, you know, they're supposed to bring flagpoles over from the con center to put on the stage. She's got the American flag and the Christian flag, you know, as backdrop for the stage. I was like, that was not on any list. No one told me about flagpoles, so there were no flagpoles that Friday night. But the next morning, I made sure to get them there. And you know what's on my checklist after that? Get flagpoles. Bring sticky notes. And so yeah, my checklist would continue to grow as people would tell me things I didn't know. And so when they tell you things you don't know, you've just got to fix what you can, move on from what you can't, and always make sure the client knows you've got it under control. Again, that's the goal at that point, is that they know you've got it under control. This is an interesting quote, just because you care to know. This is also from a British businessman and a member of the House of Lords, named Colin Marsh Marshall. He's the one who gets credit for that quote. I literally have heard quotes and I'll look up to see who actually said them later. Okay, third tip. You are only as reliable as the staff around you, whether they're volunteer or paid. You're only as reliable as they are. And I've mentioned this in this class before. If my student worker in my office is rude to someone over the phone, then the Global Perspectives office was rude. Or the Global Perspectives office gave them wrong information, and that stops with me because I am the director of that office. And so how well trained and what my staff knows reflects on me, it reflects on our office. And so if you're at an event and the usher doesn't know what they're doing, as the event planner, you're responsible because it's your job to make sure they're trained. We talk about this in volunteer training, that they know what they're supposed to do. So you're responsible. It is your job to make sure that your team, that whether they're volunteer or paid or whoever is working at the event, knows what they're supposed to do. And if they don't, then again, it looks bad all the way back up. And again, I could give so many examples of this. It's just things have happened over the years, and you're thinking, every time I just get irritated, I'm like, why didn't I think of that? But again, we're human. We don't think of everything. One time, we were walking off of the field, soccer field, at spring graduation, and my team was with me. We had finished, we were cleaning up. We were about to head back to the office and check out for the day, and I said, you know, today really went perfectly. I really can't think of anything that really went wrong today. We had a great day. And I said, the only thing I forgot to do was I forgot to assign someone to fill the vice president's water glass on the stage. And again, it's a simple thing. We always provide water for the vice president because the vice president's going to be reading, you know, a few hundred names. And so we want them to have water to be able to take a sip. And we don't want them to stand up there drinking from a, you know, Dasani bottle on the stage, you know, that doesn't look real nice. So we always put a nice goblet, and then, but we also don't want the water sitting outside open forever. So somebody's job right before it starts is to open the water bottle, pour it into the goblet, so that way it's not just sitting out there open, but it's poured for a thing. Well, I forgot to assign somebody to do that this time. And I was like, man, that's the only thing. I bet she had to do that herself. I bet the vice president had, which is no big deal. She had to unscrew her water bottle and pour it into the glass. But I was like, everything else we got covered. And one of the girls on my team says, oh, I did that. She said, I know we always do that. We always have somebody do that. So as I was making my final rounds of the stage, I just went ahead and opened that on the way off. And I was just like, I love you. This is great. Because this was one of my workers who had worked with me at several graduations. She was well trained. She knew what we did. So even though I forgot to tell her to do it, she still did it anyway because she knew that's what she was supposed to do. So again, if your staff is well trained and you have people around you that are good at what they do, then it just makes you look better. You know, and it helps solve problems that you don't even know are problems because they're good and they know what they're doing. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Everybody's heard that before, right? It's a proverb. Yeah. And that is a very true statement. So as we talked about in the hospitality or the human resources section, treat your staff well. We talked about that whole time. Remember we talked about things you can do like food and thank yous and public appreciation. You guys remember that back in chapter 4? We talked about all kinds of things that you can show your appreciation to your volunteers, to your staff. Treat them well. Make sure they're well informed. Make sure they have the information they need to do their jobs well so they don't feel stressed and they are able to do a good job. I showed you guys last class my diagram for graduation, right? That had all the little notes and the colored boxes and the X's and all of that stuff. Giving them that information helps everyone to do a good job and feel confident. They know who's supposed to be where and why, and they can understand the whole context. I know, my husband's like, Angel, that's too much detail. Everyone just needs to know that. Just because you care. I'm like, well, sorry, that's how I do things. They're gonna get the detail, whether they want it or not. But in event planning, I don't think it's a bad thing. So I will make no apologies in event planning for giving lots of detail because I think it's important and it helps you be successful. But I will tell you about the biggest public mistake of my entire event planning career over 20 some years doing events professionally. The biggest mistake I had was at one spring graduation. And you remember on the little diagram how I showed you the graduate seats, the little X's, you know, there were a certain number of chairs on the row and then a certain number of rows, and we give that information to physical plant, and it's their job to set up the number of chairs that are on the list and on the diagram for them to set up. Well, one spring graduation, I'm at the back of the field. Again, big field, you can't be everywhere at once. I'm at the back as the students are marching in, and when we would do it on the soccer field, it's kind of like the way we did it on the lacrosse field this past spring. I don't know if you guys came to graduation this past spring, but with the faculty do a walk, and the students walk through the faculty, and then the faculty come in and sit after them. So that way everybody's high-fiving and clapping. It's just real fun, you know, because all the students get to walk through all their professors on their way, sit down at graduation. And so, you know, I'm back there coordinating all that and walking it, and then all of a sudden the line stops for the back of the soccer field. The guests are all standing. This is processional. The line stops. And I'm like, okay, what's going on up there? Why is the line not moving? And so I literally go around the side and take off sprinting down the side of the soccer field to see what's going on at the front, because the line just stopped. So I get to the front. Again, a few minutes later, I am not that athletic and I cannot run that fast, but I get down to the front of the field and find out that the problem was there were not enough seats for the graduates. So they filled in all the rows, and then there were no more chairs. And lots more graduates still waiting in line with no place to sit. Bad public mistake, you know, at a time when the graduates are the guests of honor and they don't have a place to sit. So, but the good thing is, by the time I got up there, Fajoy Johnson, I don't know if you guys know Fajoy, he has worked for the Campus Ministries Department, again, for a very long time. He's very good at what he does, and he had his ushers well trained, and those ushers started grabbing chairs from out of the VIP section, out of the side, anywhere they saw an empty chair that nobody was sitting in, they were grabbing it, and they were filling in that space behind the chairs to get those graduates, you know, a place to sit. And it really didn't hold up more than probably 4 minutes. I think it was about 4, maybe 5 minutes, the total delay, you know, while everybody was kind of standing and getting in a seat. And from the back of the line, they weren't even sure what exactly happened because they couldn't see. I was mortified, completely mortified that here we are, the graduates, the guests of honors, go to sit down and they did not have seats for them. Now, was I physically responsible for putting those chairs out on the field? No, I didn't do that. Mrs. Plant did that. And was my diagram correct? Yes, it was. But I was still responsible. Even though they were the ones that had to put the chairs out, it was my graduation, I was responsible. I literally got in a golf cart once the service got going and I was seated and drove away and just cried. I just got in that golf cart, I was so stressed, and I just drove off and just sat and cried because I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. So it was a very embarrassing moment in my life. But the point is that it could have been a lot worse. If it had not been for Bejoy, for his team, well-trained members of this staff who just jumped and put it in action, it could have been a lot worse. People were saying, well, what are we going to do? The graduates don't have a place to sit. No, they didn't do that. They just started grabbing chairs where they could find them. They put rows and they got to sit down. I did meet my boss in the restroom right after the ceremony, and she was changing out of her robe to apologize and offer my resignation if it was desired, because I had made such a major mistake. And when she was like, you're ridiculous. She was like, it's okay. It's not that big a deal. Nobody will remember that years from now. I still remember that. And I will never forget that. But in the end, it ended up being okay. But at the moment, it was very, very stressful. And it was a public mistake, and everyone saw it. Larry Berry has owed me forever, and I will remind him on a regular basis that it was your fault, those chairs. I took the blame, but it was still his fault, and he knows it, and we brag about it periodically. But now, after that, let me tell you, do you know how many people are double checking those chairs? I mean, like everybody on the graduation committee is out there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And Kevin Hudson, you guys know Kevin Hudson from Direct Staff, he was on the grad committee, and Jimmy Harper, our former campus pastor, was on the grad committee. And it was so funny because every graduation after that, we were like all out there counting the chairs. And we all said that day, we had counted the number of chairs across. None of us had double checked the number of rows back. But I guess we just assumed that was right, but we had all said later, we'd all checked, and they all had 33 seats across, but there were only 10 rows instead of 13. So there were 3 rows, which is 99 graduates that didn't have a seat. Because 3 rows of 33 is 99 seats missing. So I was like, it was a pretty big problem. So anyway, make sure your team is well trained, and they will save you from major mistakes and keep them to minor mistakes. So, number 4. Keep a calm demeanor during the actual time of the event. When you're not during the event, it's okay to be transparent. It's okay to be honest with your team. It's okay to say, we got a problem, we need to fix this, whatever. But when it comes time that you are on call, the event's going on, you fake it. And that's just the way it is. You're not transparent, you fake it. Everything's good. We got this. Here's what we're gonna do. And you just fix it, no matter what the problem is. Again, I didn't cry in front of anybody. I promise. I was like, nope, we got this. Went away by myself and cried. I was like, no, they're not going to see me cry. They're all going to see me calm. Good, we got this. Whatever the problem is, we will fix it no matter what it takes. Because your attitude and your presence goes down to others. And that is a fact. Coaches will tell you this in sports. People will tell you this in leadership. And it doesn't matter. Anytime. The attitude of the leader is going to go down to those underneath. So as an event leader, you set the tone, you set the stage for it, and so you must stay calm. I'll show you this real quick. Little commercial from, when was this commercial? Like 70s maybe? It's really old. You'll know this when you look at it. Okay, but we can't hear it. I don't know why we can't hear it. Anybody have any ideas? It's not showing either. Maybe that's it. It didn't go over. Maybe when I go over, it'll show. Okay, that's cool.
Comedy.
Now we can hear it.
Never follow a better comedian. Never give a heckler the last word. And no matter how bad a joke bombs, although it's never happened to me personally, never let them see you sweat.
When you're center stage, new Dry Idea Roll-On is the very best roll-on there is.
In comedy, being nervous is natural. Looking nervous is deadly.
Dry idea. Never let them see you sweat.
You guys ever heard that expression before? Never let them see you sweat? Well, believe it or not, that came from Dry Idea, from their campaign a few decades ago when they were trying to sell their deodorant. Did that come there yet? Hello? No. There we go. Is it coming? Yes. Maybe. Never let them see you sweat was from the Dry Idea deodorant, but I love that expression. I think it's very apropos. And there are times in life when you're not supposed to let them see you sweat. No matter what happens, you stay calm and keep moving on. So. All right, number 5. A successful event is all about the details. Details, details, details. So, anyway, cheesy little cartoon for this. The guy's falling and instead of a parachute, he has underwear. So yeah, that would be a major mistake. That would, important detail that might matter in your actual event, but yes, I know, silly. But some problems, some details are big things, and like this parachute, some are small, like the water glass. It was a detail that makes it a little bit better by the fact that we poured the water into the goblet versus her having to do it. Wouldn't anybody else have cared? No, it just made it a little bit better. But your job as event planner is to think through these details in every way that you can to come up with the best possible event. And gap analysis, remember we talked about that? This is gap analysis. You're thinking through every part of your plan. Do we have everything covered? Do we have every detail? The Encore group might tell you they should have probably done a checklist when they got everything loaded at the location, and they might have realized that the aprons were missing, and then we would have had time to maybe do something a little bit different if we had done a checklist. We didn't do that, so it's okay, we still improvised, and they can tell you that story later if you want to know. But, if we'd have done a checklist when we unloaded everything into the prep room, or the junk room, then we would know, okay, the aprons were missing, but it's okay. And another thing is that good relationships, and I said this already in the tip number 3, but they will bail you out when you mess up. So if you have good relationships with people, it can help with those little details you miss. Another one of my almost really big mistakes was with planning the Autism Symposium with the College of Education. And I did that every year. I was on the logistics committee for that, and we planned all their meals and the programs and everything to do with that. And on the first day of the conference, we always had box lunches that we would order from Chick-fil-A, and then they would take them to rooms and do these breakout sessions. That's a big popular thing to do at symposiums and conferences, do a box lunch. So we always ordered them. We had a great relationship with Chick-fil-A here in town, and they would do those boxes, and we would set them up. Well, one year, for some reason, I'm not exactly sure why to this day, forgot to order the box lunches. And it was on the list, and I don't know how it happened, still to this day, but forgot to order them. Realized it the day before. Thankfully, we did realize it the day before and not the day of. And our backup plan was we were about to go to Sam's Club and buy stuff and make our own box lunches. They were going to have lunch if it took us all night to put them together. We're talking a few hundred people. We would have got it done, but I called